Well, hi folks, this is Darren with My RV Works. Today we're in a little town called Agnew, Washington. It's, what is this, east of Port Angeles, west of Sequim. Very farmy. Anyway, we're working on a Power Gear electric slide system. And so you see here the room's not in all the way, and it's touching at the top but not at the bottom. If I were to pan you up, you would see that let me actually do that. If I were to pan you up, you would see that the right there, that little slide topper, it's kind of spring-loaded, and that is what's helping the keeping the top in. So customer states that the slide room is not being retracted, but sometimes it'll go out, sometimes it'll go in, but most of the times it won't. So I've got Dakota on the inside. Now Dakota, go ahead and give us an out command. A little bit longer. Okay, so that's good. So we see that it's going out. The motor sounds strong and healthy and everything's good there. Okay, go ahead and bring it in. Okay, now you heard that, right? Try it again. Absolutely no movement on this slide when he's bringing it in. So what we'll do now is I'm going to bring the camera underneath. We're going to show you the motor, and we're going to do a little bit of diagnosis on this motor and the gearbox, and then we'll look at what the next steps needs to be. Okay, so the next time we'll be underneath the RV. Here we go. Okay, so what we've got here, now Dakota's my camera guy. We've got a gear pack on this side and a gear pack on the other side. Here we have a motor, a gearbox, okay? Now, the problem is that the system will not retract. Now, there's two things I'm gonna want you to look at. Right back here, you'll see this little lever right here. This is a brake. Okay, so right now, I was just playing with this thing to make sure I was going the right direction. So I had the brake disengaged. Okay, so with the brake disengaged, you can't turn this drive shaft. Okay, so what I want to do is show you how to do a manual retract in case you're in a situation like this and your gearbox is stripped, which is what we assume is wrong with this one, but we haven't proved it yet. But the first thing I want you to do on your system is I want to make sure that your brake is not disengaged. I want you to make sure that you're locked in, okay? Now on your newer motors, they're going to have a little black duckbill looking cover over this, and you can feel with your hand a hard lever thing and a little small piece. The small piece is like a keeper, if you will, and you can manipulate the little rubber duckbill to kind of manipulate them over each other. So let me get here, let me use this. I'm just going to push up on this. Watch your eyes, Dakota. There. Okay, so I just pushed up on this, and I'm going to, and now it's released, and I'm going to push down on it. That is engaged. Okay, so you need to be advised that on these Power Gears, they're going to have this thing on the end of the motor. Now it is engaged right now. So if I take a adjustable wrench and I try to turn this, there ain't nothing happening on that. And that's the situation you want it to be in on normal operation. But we need to do an emergency retract. Okay, so I could get my hand up there, but I'll just use my pliers. Watch your eyes, buddy. And we're gonna push up on this. There we go. So I pushed up on my brake mechanism. And now with a simple pair of channel locks, I can put it on here, make sure I got a good bite, and I then, you see me rotating, and the room is actually being brought in right now. Okay. A longer one of these would be better, but you see me turning this. Okay, so that's one of the reasons they give you a square drive shaft, so you can actually get a tool on it, bite on the thing, and rotate and bring your room back in manually. Okay, so I did want to show you the manual retract. Now, we are going to be taking off this gearbox. Now, Dakota, can you get the camera right in this little window right here? Well, you're really close. Okay, go right there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this because there is going to be a pin that we need to gain access to. So let me move this back a little bit. Okay, there, the pin is starting to come into position. Okay, can you look in this little window here, buddy? Right there.
we're after that pin right there. So that is it's not so much a roll pin as it is a solid bushing. We're going to have to take a punch and punch that out, and it's going to come out the top. Okay, so we're going to need to take this bolt off and that pin out, these 4 bolts off, and then move the drive shaft out of the way, and the motor will come out. Now, before we do that, we are going to pan over here, buddy, right over here. We're going to disconnect it from the battery by disconnecting the harness right here. Now, if we run the motor, this will make a ratcheting sound. So we're making a full, I'm going to use the word assumption that the gearbox is stripped. We don't believe that there's anything wrong with the electricity going to the motor. That's nice and healthy. If it was a blown fuse, we wouldn't have the motor even try to go out. It's when it comes back in. And inside of these things, I've taken several apart. It's a plastic gear, worm gear. Sometimes they're brass, but we'll be taking this one apart. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this bolt off, take a punch, drive this pin out, and then take these 4 bolts off and move the motor out and take it to a workbench. Okay. Now, another thing I noticed while I'm under here, look at this, Dakota. This little roller right here has got a big chunk missing out of it. If you look at this one right here. So don't know, the other rollers look okay. So if we needed to replace this roller, you would take a floor jack, take the pressure off of this ram, and take this bolt out and get a new kit to replace that roller right there. Also, sometimes some of you guys might have broken teeth. Be advised they have an 18 tooth and a 15 tooth. You got to make sure you get the right one, and this is what's called a gear pack. And again, floor jack, take all the weight off of it, or a bottle jack, but you got to get the weight off this thing, and then it's just a pretty straightforward swap out. Again, you're going to have to drive that pin out to get this part of it released from the gear pack. So we're going to get some tools. I'm going to squirt all this down with some PB Blaster. You can pan back a little bit, but we're going to get some PB Blaster and just kind of squirt it on some of these things just to make disassembly a little bit easier. And we'll get a punch and punch this out. I don't know that you guys are going to gain any value of watching me take this bolt apart. I think if you're doing this kind of work, you're going to be familiar with how to take a bolt apart. And then I'm going to get a punch and a brass hammer and tap this pin out. And then this looks to be about either a 1/2 inch or a 7/16 on these things, and we'll take this apart. So I'm going to save everybody some viewing time. I'm going to be taking this apart, punching this out, and taking these 4 bolts off. That's really disconnecting it over here, and that's what's involved in getting these things apart. If we do come across any strange anomalies that I'm not expecting, we'll bring it back online here. But otherwise, the next time you see this motor, we'll have it out. And like I said, I think you guys can figure it out. The key here, make sure that you know that there's a roll pin right in this location here, and you need to align it with your top and bottom windows to drive that out, and then we'll show you the trick to realign everything. Okay, so Dakota and I are going to get busy getting some work done, and we'll bring you back when we get the motor off. Okay, so we got the motor out, and I wanted to point out something. You could come in here, Mr. Dakota. So when we had this motor in its position, we saw the end of this. It's not a roll pin, but I'm gonna call it a pin, okay? And I knew we had to drive one of those out, but this is the one we have to drive out. It turns out that is a roll pin, as a matter of fact. There's a slot in it right there. But it doesn't look like a roll pin. I'm just seeing that slot there. Normally roll pins, anyway, it doesn't matter. So we didn't need to take this out, okay? But that's the pin we need to drive out and move over to this shaft. Okay, what this guy does is he just keeps it interlocked. So that was something. I knew there was a pin we had to drive out, but this one could have stayed on the drive shaft on the gear pack itself. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. All right, we're going to be taking this apart, and I want to see what's wrong with it. So we're going, and now guys, I've read the comments and people are wanting to me to show you how I take every bolt out. Well, I'm not going to waste your time. This is really this simple. We took this bolt off the drive shaft, moved the drive shaft out of the way, took these 4 bolts out. This thing slid right out. There's no point in you seeing me do that. I think you guys are big boys and girls. You can figure that part out, right? The motors are a little bit different in size, but this is the direct part replacement for this one.
Now, when we were here the other day looking at the parts, we were able to identify this part number here. And but look, when we took the whole thing off, notice that there's a part number right there as well. Yours mileage may vary, but on this guy, if that's some information you can use on this motor, okay, we will put a link down below. This one came from Amazon. We will share an affiliate link on the replacement motor for this, okay? But the connectors are the same, the drive shafts are the same, the gearboxes are the same, okay? So, and then once we're going to drive this pin off, we'll put him right back on there and that'll be fixed. But I think what will be exciting, and I think what we're all looking forward to, is taking this off and looking inside and seeing what's failed on it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is drive this pin out and transfer it over to here, and then we'll just take a minute and take these bolts off, take this cover off, and take a peek inside. Okay, so let's do that next. Okay, so the first thing we did was we drove the pin out, and that's just, we took a hammer and a punch and drove this pin out and then transferred it over to the new motor. And you want to seat it so that when the collet is on, it's flush all the way around. Okay, so that's your gauge, okay, because this is going to rotate. So we're good on that. We've also taken some time to take all these screws out. So now is a moment of truth to find out what's inside. All right. Okay, it looks like the problem is right here. That got oblonged right there. Okay, so this guy here, we see this a lot on the BAL power drive systems. Yep, here's your failure point right here. See how it's cracked? Right there. Okay. And if this sticker was off, you might have seen a fatigue mark, but that's where your crack was. So when this motor is going in one direction, the gear is probably pressed up against this side, and when it goes in the other direction, it's pressed up against this side. And so these gears themselves aren't so much stripped as the wobbliness of this has pushed against that. So that's where it failed, guys, right in that crack. And you can see a really good crack right in there. That's where it failed. Okay, so the motor's still good, actually. So there you go. And so if you have a BAL power slide, these are the cable slide systems on your slide rooms. A lot of times their gear packs will fail the same exact way. And on those, you'll see a bulge here on the top of this. In fact, I want to see, I'm going to take the sticker off, and I want to see if this has any, yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, I guess you could look at it really closely and you can kind of see a deformity in this back plate here. But anyway, the grinding sound that we heard was all of this right here. And if we were to pry that out a little bit, yeah, see, it's even letting me pry it even more. This whole piece has failed right here. So what we were hearing was this thing stripping. No broken teeth. See, sometimes you'll find broken teeth in here, and this is the worm gear. This is the end of the drive shaft of the motor right here. And when the motor's turning, sometimes we'll see it strip against the brass pieces. But so anyway, all the gears are good. No stripping of the gears. The problem was with this housing. It got oblonged. All right, so yeah, I'm looking at it with the shadow of the sun, and there's a little bit of a warp right in there. I don't know if y'all can make that on the camera, but by me holding it in the sun. So there was what's failed. So now we're going to go ahead and put the new one in, and there's really nothing to salvage from this. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even going to waste my time. This will go to a scrapyard. But there you go. So let's put this back, and we'll put it in the scrap pile and start putting a new one on. Oh, and while we got it out, this was that brake, and it even says brake end right here. And so this is that lever we were playing with. Okay. And on the new one, This was that duckbill thing we were talking about. So it's still got the lever, but you got to pull. See, now I just engaged it. See, it's over here now. And then I push it. There it is. And now it's right there. Okay. So we could cut the tie wrap and pull this off. You'd end up with something just like this. What they've done is they've screwed another little bendable, this is a bendable piece of metal in here, and it just keeps it from flipping. Like, you would have to purposely move that out of the way and move that over. So, hold on. There we go. You would have to actually, so now there's nothing here, it's all there. You would have had to have moved that little metal piece out of the way and driven this over like that to disengage the brake, okay? That's what we're doing here. It's the same lever, they just put a rubber booty on it. So now I'm gonna release it, or re-engage it. Let's see, we're there. So I pull it, there it is. So now you heard a little click. This is the piece that can move, and then this is the hard piece. I'd take this off, but I think you guys can visualize. On yours, you'll feel a little piece, but that's what's going on. They're just gonna slide over each other. So this one moves out of the way and then it slides, okay? So we're done with this. And we've got our new collet here. And we're going to drive this back on to, I've got my punches over there. We're going to drive this back onto the gear pack, and then we'll slide this motor on, okay, and put these on. Now, when you put these back together, it wouldn't hurt to check all your bolts. We found that these were loose. I'm going to look up the torquing value of these bolts. But this whole system, your rams and everything, are based on grade 8 hardware, and you want 14 foot-pounds of torque, which is 168 inch-pounds. So it's really important when you're using grade 8 to make sure that the torque is set right. What's happening is the threads are elongating, and then when you release it, the elongated threads kind of lock the thread in place, okay? So if you're going to use grade 8 hardware, you need to also, the other part of using grade 8 hardware is a proper torquing value. If you're going to use grade 8 hardware or grade 5 or grade 3 and not pay any attention to the torquing hardware, what's the point, is my point, okay? So while we're under here, we're going to make sure that we torque all the hardware to 14 foot-pounds, which is spec. We're doing a service on this. Let's make sure that that's correct as well. Could that have caused this? I don't know. But another thing that would have caused this is obviously the motor gear pack worked a little bit too hard. Maybe this whole issue is a problem of lubrication. Okay, it was working against dry parts. Even though I said dry, I'm not opposed to dry. Sometimes I like dry. If you remember that wheel that we saw that was broken, that's a poly wheel, and it's really good to have everything dry because some of the products that you'll use to spray on these things act as like a sticky agent, and they will start attracting all kinds of dirt and everything. So it would be good for you to degrease your systems. And I'm a fan of the CRC Power Lube with Teflon. I'm a really big fan of that. I've used that on a lot of my systems. So perhaps one of the reasons this thing failed in the way that it did was because it wasn't maintained properly. We're going to make sure that all their bolts are torqued properly with the proper torquing spec. And I do need to look up what the torque, because you wouldn't put 14 foot-pounds on a cast thing. It would rip right out of there. So we need to find out what the torquing value was. On that note, when Dakota and I took these bolts out, they were finger tight. We just I mean, I got my wrench and everything on there, but I'm like, man, these things are loose. So what I also may do is I might put just a drop of blue thread locker on the bolts that hold in here. There's 4 of them. And not a whole lot, but just a drop, just to keep it in there. And I do want to look in the manual to see if there's a torquing value for these, okay? But I do know that the torquing value for all the rams is going to be 14 foot-pounds, okay? So 14 foot-pounds on all of our rams. If I look up in the manual and I find out what the torquing value is on this, we'll let you know. Otherwise, I'm going to probably do maybe 40 inch-pounds on this, which basically is tight and then a little bit farther. 35 inch-pounds is hand tight. 40 inch-pounds is hand tight plus a little extra. So we'll do that. But again, you're going into a cast product and you don't want to strip it out. Blue thread locker, once they're binded down, will help hold the bolts in, which with blue you can overcome that with enough torque. Red thread locker, you would need heat in order to break those. I would not use red thread locker because I would be throwing my other technician under the bus if he ever had to work on this again. Okay, so we're going to put this collet back in, and it's just a brass hammer, punch it back in. We know that everything's aligned still. We haven't turned the room, but if we needed to, we could take that adjustable wrench and rotate to get everything aligned to line up our pin. Okay, so that's what's next.
Okay, so now that we have oriented the roll pin the way we want it to, it should be kind of close. There it is. All right, it's in, but you see how it's changed. So guess what? I'm going to use my test lead set again, and I'm going to bump this so that this gear pack is up and down with respect to this. I've got it seated, but I could turn this easy. But guess what that would do? That would change the synchronization of the slide room, wouldn't it? And we do not want to do that. So we're going to get the test lead set again. It's right here. And this time I'm going to add one little feature to it. So what we know works is these little guys slide right in there. Okay. And put those into there. All right, so we are going to bump this a little bit. So I've used my test lead set again. I've got my pins on. I stayed with the color orientation black all the way through. And on this time, I added an extension to it. So this is my battery leads now. And let's see here, that's plus. I'm just gonna bump it. There we go. You see that? A little bit. Too much. Change rotation. There we go. Okay. So there we go again, how the test lead set works. With keeping everything aligned. Okay, now this little bit of slop is gonna be enough for me to get it aligned. So I would recommend when you're doing this not to slide the thing on and rotate this because you just got yourself out of synchronization. Okay, so we're going to put this around this way, and if everything is still correct, then let's see, where's the magnetic tray with all those parts in it? Right here. Okay, so if everything is still aligned, look at that, everything is still aligned because we never changed. That's another check. It's like in Excel, you do your little checksums and everything. So because this drive shaft never turned and we got this gear pack oriented properly, that pin went right through. Okay, and so I'm just gonna finger tighten this right there, just finger tight. And now I did take a second and look in the service manual. They do not reference, that I could find, any torquing value for these. Okay, so I'm going to take some thread locker, blue, and this activates based on oxygen. And you shake it before you use it. And I'm just going to dab just a little dot on each bolt. Okay. And the reason I want to do this is because, like I said, when Dakota and I, there we go. So I'm just putting a little blue dot on there. Hold on, I'm gonna put this right, I'm gonna put that right there. Okay. These were finger loose or finger tight or whatever you wanna. We were loosening them with our fingers, is my point. All right, another little dab on this one.
Okay, we've just crawled our way out from underneath the RV, and we are ready. We've got everything connected. You saw us put it all back together again. So Dakota's on the inside, and we're going to push a button full circle from where we were before. So, okay, Dakota, go ahead and retract. Hey, we're going in. All right. Good. Okay, so it went in and it sounds really strong and healthy. Go ahead and extend all the way. So we're going to extend it all the way. And we see that the slide topper on the top, the spring is still kind of holding it, but it's starting to unravel itself. And we're going to bring it all the way out and see what happens, so you guys can watch along with us. We're listening for any crunching sounds and whatnot. Okay, that's good. Okay, and retract. This was the test. This was what failed it last time. Now we showed you how to recover from that. You release your brake and take your adjustable wrench and turn that square drive shaft. Wonderful. Okay, so I think we're done here. We've got a couple more customers to get to. So if this was helpful, if that added value to you, give us a thumb up. If you like this kind of content, share it with your friends. If you've got this kind of a slide room or whatever, you know the drill. One of the things I'll mention here on the test lead set, you could check that out if you found that useful. There'll be a link down below. Also, you can get that on our website. We've also, this motor that we got for here, we've got an Amazon affiliate link. You can get your motor from there. We'll put a link on that as well. If you're interested in doing mobile RV service repair as a business, we have started a new how to start, build, maintain, and operate your own mobile RV service business. We're doing, I think we've got slated 50 episodes over the course of the next many months. We've recorded quite a few of them already. You'll find that information over on our Patreon site. Again, a link below in the description. So this is Darren. We're Happy Campers Say My RV Works, signing off from, where are we at? I just said it earlier. Agnew, Washington. Until the next video, thank you for watching. Bye.